definitely build build those relationships, and then stay on top of it, and the success will come, as well as the paycheck. Oh, there's no paycheck. Bummer. All right, general gaming. Great games for the PSP, because now that the PSP is in its last year, I think we can say officially, at least mainstream. And there's a question on this later, so we'll get to that. It's some of the great games for the platform.
All right, now when you told me about this topic, I was trying to think of games that really stood out. I mean, the Metal Gear Solids have been exceptional. God of Wars have all been awesome. But, I mean, those are the games you'd really expect to be awesome on the PSP. I mean, you would hope that they would make them awesome, because those are, I guess Konami isn't first party, but, I mean, I guess they're high-tier third party. And,
well, they're specific for the PSP at least, right?
Yeah. But the game that still sticks out to me that was a launch title, I believe, is Lumines.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a music, I don't know if you call it music-based puzzle game, but I mean, it has some amazing music on it, and the music kind of goes along with how you're doing in the game. Like whenever you break blocks, it plays a little bit of music that kind of mixes with the background music. It's a very amazing experience just playing that game. But the thing about that game is it's the only game I've ever played where I can like sit down and play, and it'll feel like I played for 10 minutes and an hour has passed.
Yeah, classic time warp syndrome. It happens.
It's weird because I'll get on a plane maybe, or I'll just know, okay, I need to burn an hour here. I don't know really what I want to do. So, but hey, I'll play Lumines. And I mean, it works every time. I enjoy it. It feels like it was only 10 minutes, and by the time I'm done playing, an hour to an hour and a half has passed. So it's an amazing game. So that would probably be my number one pick for a unique, well, I guess it's not even unique because now it's on PSN, but an awesome PSP game.
Is Lumines on PSN now?
I know it's on one of the consoles. I
think it's the Lumines HD. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But it's like if I remember right, it's kind of like a ripoff where you buy the game and you have to keep buying packs to make it the full game. That's why I never got it, because I know IGN ripped it a new one for the way they handled the way the game was distributed.
Yeah. Well, that, and I'd rather just have it as a download on the PSP anyway.
For a while there, I was a trophy obsessor, so yeah, that's why I was thinking about getting it, because I love the game so much. But then I was like, screw it.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. Everybody who used to gripe about the battery life on the PSP, I would say, sounds like you have a good game to me. Felt like 15 minutes and it was 4 hours. You bought the right game. So great PSP title. So we already talked about Patapon. That's one of the huge ones. Loco Roco, which I really haven't played much at all. I know that's one of the big. I know you're down with Loco Roco.
Oh, yes, I am.
One of my very, very favorite games for the PSP, and probably one of my favorite games ever, that most people hated, and I think nobody even was aware that a part 2 came out, and that is Metal Gear Acid. Those games are amazing.
And I've never actually played those, and I've talked to you about this, about how I love Shining Force, Advanced Wars. So do they play a lot like Advanced Wars?
There's a tactical piece to it, and there's also the chance of the cards. There's collectibles. And if you're a fan of the Metal Gear series, you've got to have this game, because like there's special like gold cards, like rare cards that when you play them, like it'll show you like a video clip from the original Metal Gear game that it came from, and all the way back to the original Metal Gear, not Metal Gear Solid, but Metal Gear, and all the the old the 16-bit systems and all this stuff. It's so cool, and all the characters and from the comics, and there's stuff from I think it was called Police Knots or something that Hideo worked on. There's characters from that in there. So fun. It was one of the launch titles for the PSP. Everybody was lukewarm on it. Metal Gear Acid 2, so fun. Metal Gear Acid 2 has a 3D mode on it. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
It has this little cardboard thing that you slide over your PSP, and it's got these lenses in it, and you switch the PSP into 3D mode where it takes and splits the screen in two. And you basically hold your PSP up to your face like an idiot, but it's in 3D. The game's in 3D. It's so cool. Huh. And it only gives you a headache after about 40 minutes, but it's so worth it.
That's 40 minutes later than the Virtual Boy.
Oh, I'm telling you. And it's got even the videos and like the in-game videos are like, there's like clips from Metal Gear Solid 3 that are in 3D that you're viewing. When you play a special card, it'll show like, the Metal Gear, whatever. It's not the Rex, but whatever Metal Gear was in Metal Gear Solid 3. That's a fun game. Love it. So that's probably my top pick.
Awesome. That's a really good pick because I wouldn't have even thought of that. I actually have never heard anybody give glowing comments about it. It got like 7.5s in most reviews. It's not like people said it was awful, but for Metal Gear to get a 7, you usually think, something is wrong with that game. So it's cool to hear that. If you like strategy games, it's a really good game to play.
That's my pick for great PSP games. Lumine is always on the top of the list. More recently, Gran Turismo PSP, one of the best.
And that game also got lukewarm reviews.
Yeah.
Or probably sub-lukewarm reviews.
It's amazing how they had so many things they did right on that game. Such a beautiful game. It's so well rendered. It looks just as good as Gran Turismo 4 on the PS2.
Huh.
You know what they screwed up on?
What's that?
They screwed up on the fact that there's no career mode.
Oh, okay, that must have been what I actually read the review for, and I remember thinking whatever was wrong with it. I was like, "Wait, what? They didn't add that?" So that must have been it.
You start the game, you have basically access to all cars and access to all tracks, but then you're stuck with, okay, so what do I do? So there's like no point to the game other than to go drive around a track.
Yeah.
There's no sense of accomplishment, which is why it failed.
Yeah.
I failed is a strong word. Why it wasn't as well received as it could.
Well, I mean, you liked it, so obviously it didn't fail. It's just I can see why people would have rated it lowly, but I can also see why hardcore racers would not mind as long as they get the racing experience.
I think we can move on to Q&A, of which we don't have loads and loads, but we do have some. So, what do we got? We've got X Kappa X.
But before you even go, a lot of these came via, or actually all of them came via your Twitter. So why don't you give out your Twitter so people can know that's a great way to send questions to you.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you for reminding me. So my Twitter account is PSN_TSR13, which by no coincidence is my PlayStation Network. So I'm on Twitter, so if you're not following me already, please do. I'm sure I'll say something lame that you can laugh at once every month. And I've been sending out tweets as to, hey, if you got questions, go ahead and jump in. So the ones we got are from there this time around. So X Kappa X from Twitter, she asked, if the moon were made up of barbecue spare ribs, would you eat it?
It'd be really tough. I'd probably have to spend a few days contemplating if it was worth destroying gravity as we know it, but I'd probably end up eating them.
That's probably true. I'm not the hugest fan of barbecue spare ribs, but done right, so I'd have to say it depends on who barbecued the moon. Then I'd consider eating it. I'd have to know first, because if it was cheap barbecue, it wouldn't be worth it.
All right. So for the next question, this is from JWW Photos. And he says, wouldn't it be easier to just order more of that yummy barbecue from Texas?
Which, of course, is in the same thread. So for my birthday, my wife ordered barbecue from this place, The Good Company in Texas, and it was shipped out to California, where there is no such thing as good barbecue, by the way. I don't care if you're from here, there's not. And it was just freaking wonderful. So I don't even like ribs. I couldn't stop eating them. So yes, JW, I think that would be probably the best way to go, and I think I'm going to do exactly that again. It's just order a big giant box of barbecue from Texas and just go to town.
And you might not even destroy life as we know it doing that. So.
And that would be an advantage, is that we would still have tides and normal gravity. So hello, Bob 5. This question came in not even an hour ago. So this is a really good one. Do you think that the announcement of the NGP, so Sony's next generation portable, has confirmed the death of the PSP side of LBP?
All right, so I was thinking about this when I was listening to podcast episode 4. I was thinking, wouldn't it not be the coolest thing ever if they could take the levels from PSP and up-res all of them? So they just take everything and just make it using, they just make it so this object's going to look 3D like this in whatever PSP or LBP on NGP. And oh man, that would be so awesome. Just to be able to go see some levels that were on PSP, because there are some incredible levels, but I mean, no matter what you do, the PSP is always going to look really not that great as LittleBigPlanet goes. I mean, Salieri some authors have just pulled out some amazing things. But in the end, when you play Little Big Planet on the PS3 after playing PSP, it's just like you can't even believe how good it looks on PS3. So to be able to see those amazing levels from PSP on like the NGP would be really, really cool. I don't know how high my hopes are for that, but that would be an awesome way to say thanks to the community for making the levels on the PSP.
Yeah, I would really hope for that. That's my one big fear. It's more of a coming to terms with reality than it is a fear, because I think it's going to happen. Yeah. Is that PSP levels someday are just not going to be there. Mm-hmm. You know, the ones that we worked on, all the levels we published, they're not going to be able to be downloaded by anybody anymore at some point in the future. And I think the announcement of the NGP brings into light the stark reality of, hey, LBP PSP is not going to be around forever.
And on a completely side note, I've been reading around the forums lately, and a lot of people, I mean, with the announcement of PSP, or Little Big Planet on the NGP, a lot of people are saying, oh man, I sure hope Cambridge isn't making this, because I cannot believe they cut support. But I mean, let's think for a second. Obviously, Cambridge knew the PSP2 was coming out. I mean, they're part of PSP2. The NGP is coming out. They're part of Sony. So obviously, Sony told them, cut your support. The NGP is coming out. We're moving on to the new Little Big Planet. So please quit, like, attacking Cambridge, because they made an awesome game. I mean, it's a little buggy, but, I mean, they made Little Big Planet on the PSP. So, I mean, if they said Cambridge was going to make the new one for NGP, which I'm pretty sure they're not, because I forget what game they're making, Resistance or no, they're making Killzone.
Yeah. I was just going to say they're I think confirmed officially, unofficially, they're doing Killzone for the NGP.
But I mean, people are saying, "Oh, I'm glad that means maybe Media Molecule will do it, but at least Cambridge won't." But come on, really, think about it. I mean, they knew that that the NGP was coming, so they cut the rope just a little, like a few months before the NGP was announced. So it's obvious that's why.
Yeah. Well, it was all part of the.
Don't attack Cambridge for that.
Yeah, I mean, the DLC was clearly planned, right? Because the last pack was the Yuletide pack, and it was timed, right? It was probably made in March of the year before and released and I think it was just part of the life cycle. They plan these things out. You know, it's a corporation. They do this. And even then, Ace Creator from Cambridge, he's still supporting contests with stickers and all sorts of things. You know, I correspond with him. I really couldn't ask for anything more from a game developer. And I'm not even really that much of a fan of Killzone, and I'm going to buy it just because Cambridge is making it. So,
I, on the other hand, am a huge fan of Killzone, and I cannot wait to see what they do.
For you, then, that's a perfect storm. I mean, Cambridge has really sold me. They nailed it. I mean, we've talked about Cambridge on a few different podcasts now. Mm-hmm. They did a great job, and I think people confuse the PSP's processing power with Cambridge, and they are not related. And Cambridge did a better job than everybody gives them credit for. So. But as far as the NGP confirming the deaths, it's not helping. I don't think it's accelerating things at all, but I think it's just sort of made people realize, hey, you know, this is not going to be forever. This time next year, there's likely to be no activity at all, as we know it. So probably, but not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
All right, you know what? There's a question I'm supposed to ask you, Taff, and I completely forget what it is. You might as well go ahead and ask it.
We got a comment from is it Domik?
Oh, yeah, Domik.
12 on Little Big Planet Central. He was, I guess it really wasn't a question, but he was like, too bad the podcast is not in Russian.
And he replied that your only Russian you know is Sputnik. Awesome.
That's because it's in The Right Stuff, the movie The Right Stuff. So I would love to have this in Russian, and unfortunately I know none. Absolutely none. There's nobody I know that knows Russian. So we'll work on it, but until then, I think we'll have to get some kind of terrible online translator. You could have it voice recognized text and then run that through a translator, and it would probably be the most terrible translation ever, but at least you could generally tell that we were talking about.
It'd probably make it twice as funny.
It would make it at least twice as funny, which, well, twice zero is still zero, but hey. So I think that's about all the time we got for episode 5. Any parting thoughts?
This will be the episode I'm remembered as being a stalker. I'm a little scared I said all that now.
Well, B. Coli asked about boxers or briefs last time, so we're doing stalker spotlight from him to you.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoy, and we'll be pushing out episode 6 pretty soon.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.